In our first vision framing session, our navigator, Kent Benson, told us a story about a farmer who one day was walking down the rows of his farm, looking at all the beautiful green leaves, just at the beginning of the season when the little bitty pumpkins were beginning to dot the landscape. He looked over and he saw a clear glass jar just laying there. And curiosity got the best of him, and so he walked over to one of the small pumpkins, and he picked up the pumpkin bud and put the pumpkin on its vine and pushed it down inside the jar and laid the jar aside. Several months later, after the experiment had been long forgotten, the farmer came back into the field and he was looking at all of the beautiful large pumpkins that were growing all across his field. To his amazement, he looked down and he saw that same glass jar laying there. But what really caught his attention was the fact that as he picked it up, he noticed that inside the jar was completely filled with a very small pumpkin that was being held together by the glass jar. Now, the picture of the glass jar is an image of what goes on in so many churches, because the glass jar becomes an image for us of the things that would hold a church back from keeping a church from really reaching its God-given potential. And so the glass jar has become for us an image for us to rethink the idea of the ministry of Calvary. What we've done in the past, the things where we've been successful, the areas where we've been unsuccessful, and really trying to determine what is it that's keeping us from having an even greater kingdom impact than what we've been able to have. As we discussed all throughout the first session, we talked about particularly two ideas of the things that go on in the life of the church. One being this idea of what it is that's holding us back. The other was a picture of a house. And in this house, we talk about the idea of lower room thinking and upper room thinking. And when we look at this picture, when we look at this house, we come across the idea of realizing that the house pictures a church. And people come to a church for particular reasons. One of the reasons that people come to a church is because of place. The church is centrally located to where they live. It's easy to get to. Maybe it's an interesting architectural structure that caught their attention, and because of the place, the facility, the location, they've chosen to come to the church. Other people come to the church because of the program. They like the children's ministry. They like the student ministries. They like the worship ministries. They like the missions programs. They like the education program of the church. And the programs, the activities of the church are what draw some people to a church. Other people are drawn to the church because of a personality. A member of the staff, a key leader in the church, but some personality that stands out as a key figure in the life of the church, and that's a reason that many people go to the particular church that they choose to go to. Another reason that people choose to go to a certain church is because of the people, the members of the church. Maybe it's a friend that has invited them to the church. Maybe it's a colleague, somebody that they've met in the community who talked to them about their church and said, "You really ought to come to my church." And each of these are reasons that everybody goes to a church initially. But the problem is that when these are the four reasons that somebody comes to a church, these are also the reasons that somebody stays in the church. So if the place changes, maybe the church relocates, or maybe they do something different architecturally and the place changes, then their reason for being there has changed. Maybe it's the program. Their favorite program is no longer offered in the church. And so their reason for being in the church is no longer there. Maybe it's that personality, that worship leader that drew them to the church in the first place. But God calls him somewhere else. And the reason that they came to the church is no longer there. And so they leave the church soon after. Perhaps it's the people that drew you to the church. You had a group of folks that you enjoyed being involved in Bible study and being involved in fellowship. But that group of people moved out of town. They were relocated, and so they're no longer in the church. And so that group of people that brought you to the church is no longer there, and so the reason for you to be in the church is no longer there. And all of these are the ideas of lower room thinking. And it's a deep reason why in so many churches we see churches grow by people coming into the church, but they're also staying static because the same number of people are leaving the church because of one of these reasons. What we want to be doing through the vision casting process is move people into upper room thinking, where we focus on the vision. The vision is what's going to keep people in the church. And so what we're looking at over these months as we're going through this vision casting process is we're talking about this idea of vision. What is the driving, clear focus of the ministry of Calvary Baptist Church? What is the one thing that we believe that God has called us to do that uniquely we can do better than anybody else can do it? And so as we begin to think about moving from lower room thinking to upper room thinking, we want to be focusing on the vision. And our strategies are the things that are going to lead us to move people from that reason that they came into the church to the vision, which is the reason that we want them to stay in the church. We want to have the opportunity each month to be able to hear from you. Just below this video is a comment box where we would love to be able to have some ideas, some thoughts from you. We would love to know, as you think about the pumpkin jar of the ministry of Calvary Baptist Church, what are some things that you think are keeping us from having an even greater kingdom impact than our church has had throughout our history? We also want to know, what is it that you think are the reasons that people come to church? Do people come to Calvary because of our location? Do they come because of our building? Do they come because of our programs? Do they come because of our personality? Or do they come because of people? Or better asked, why did you come to Calvary? Was it because of the place, the program, the personalities, the people? What draw you to Calvary? And the thing that we want to focus on is when people come, we want to drive them to the vision. So we would invite you to take just a couple of minutes and think about who we are as a church and what you believe it is that's holding us back, and also what it is that you believe that draws people to the ministry of Calvary in the first place. Share those ideas with us so that as we begin moving into our later sessions, we have greater feedback about what people think about the ministry of Calvary. We'd also like to know from you, what is it that you feel is the overarching passion of the ministry of the church? What is it that drives us as a church? What is it that excites us as a people of God to be able to go out and make a difference in the community? Perhaps the best way for you to answer that question again is, what is your passion? What is the thing that drives you, that excites you about being involved in the ministry of Calvary? Take a moment and share those thoughts with us. We'd love to have the opportunity to hear from you. We'd also encourage you to be able to talk with the people who are serving on our team. Those folks who are involved in the sessions each month would love to have the opportunity to talk with you and to share with you. So get in contact with a member of our vision team, and we would love to be able to talk with you about your thoughts, your ideas about the ministry of Calvary Baptist Church.